Shut the lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of stand tall when they tell you to kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never chain the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your faith as greed, but freedom don't need permission, it just needs men who'll bleed. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. Cause freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free, it's written in red on history's page, a warning to the tyrants and the cowards of the age. They can bury us in silence, but the truth still screams. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Come gather round the footlights, lads, and hear the old boards groan. A tale of ink and iron will, of voices overblown. From mics and scripts to painted sails, we've traded shore for sea. The players will man the rigging soon. Aye, your hands, follow me. just ship a single breath. The course is not set yet. We players sail, we players sail, we players sail soon. All hands to KLRN Radio, setting sail for Treasure Island, March 2026!
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me now? Because if you can hear me now, then I'm just going to restart and pretend the last few minutes didn't happen. Apparently, I had a glitch between my board and Restream and didn't realize it till now. So I want to thank you for the folks that have hung through me being a mime for the last few minutes. We're going to go ahead and I'm not going to do the commercials again, but I am going to do the intro. So let's restart this thing officially, and that way I can just clean up everything else in post. Hang out for a minute.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got...
Okay, me trying to start the dreaded Monday show. Take two. Good Lord, did I mention it feels like a Monday? Because it is, but yeah, for those of you who couldn't hear me in the opening of the show, what I was explaining was it's been a while since I have done a Monday show because I have been sick for weeks and weeks, and every time I kicked it, it tried to come back. Facts. F-A-C-T-S, sir. Anyway. Although I will give you one of these. There you go. Stay all week. Don't forget to try the pork chops and tip your servers because he'll be here all week. Anyway, welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Me trying to launch again. Okay, so yeah, it's been a minute since I've done a Monday, and unfortunately I forgot when I reset my board and stuff earlier. I always have to go back and double check to make sure the mic's pointed to the right place, and it was not. I checked everything else. Anyway, so I'll cut the rest of it and just get back to what I was going to be working on a second ago, and then we'll come back to the rest of it in a minute if I feel like it. Hang on. Wait, do I have the? Hang on, I need to check something. No, could have swore I turned my camera back on a second ago. All right, so we fixed that now too. Somebody should probably tax me because apparently I deserve it today. Holy pacha bread. All right, hang on. Then that's not a thing either. I don't even know where that just came from. All right, so let's watch this together and then we can point and laugh afterwards because, reasons.
If you're an American who is considering
Probably helps if I make sure the volume's up.
If you're an American who is considering leaving the country to move somewhere else, make sure that the location you choose isn't based off of fear and lack mentality. I regret moving to Costa Rica. It's a beautiful country. I love the nature and wildlife, but moving to a third world country where I don't know the language, I don't have any connections, resources, or opportunities, that didn't make my life any easier by any means. I was just so scared of what's going on in America politically that I was in fight or flight. I was like, how am I gonna afford to survive? Like, how am I gonna find a place to live? Like, I was freaking out. And then I came here and made my life so much harder. And now I'm trying to go back, and I just wish I didn't leave in the first place. And it's so weird to
No take backs. You're stuck.
Want to move to America right now with everything that's going on, but I just left so many privileges and resources behind, and I want them back. It sucks, but I kind of grew up in an interesting way. I was the poorest person in the wealthiest rooms throughout most of my childhood. I was extremely wealthy till I was like age 6. I had this beautiful waterfront mansion with a private beach and pool. And then my parents got divorced and I ended up with a parent who didn't have money. So we were living out of like trailers and hotels and lower income housing, but I was still in these really wealthy situations. Like I was in private school and cotillions and dance lessons. And I always thought that I was so poor because I was the poorest person that I knew. And all of my friends had like millionaire and billionaire parents. Now that I've traveled, I've seen like real poverty and I'm like, oh, I wasn't poor. But as a kid, I had these really luxurious vacations through my friends and family members where like my first introduction to Costa Rica, it was like when I was 17 years old. I came with my friend's family and we stayed at exclusive resorts. We were having lunch at the Four Seasons, and like same with my Hawaii experiences. My family friends took me and we stayed at the Grand Wailea and the Hyatt, all these really fancy luxury resorts, and we would explore the areas too, but you know, living in Nanavale or Pahoa is very different than taking a vacation at the Grand Wailea or Four Seasons. So, you know, my travels and moves, I've really realized how privileged I've been. And there's a lot of things that like made me run away from LA and Orange County, some traumatic experiences and terrible people. But I left a lot of resources and great people behind, and I need to be in those environments again. I really miss luxury environments.
That is not my problem. I don't care that you miss your life of luxury. I do find it humorous and entertaining, however, that you have suddenly figured out that, hey, maybe things weren't so bad in America after all, you derp. This is what I'm talking about. These people, and the funny thing is, they say it's us because we're the uncultured swine who never travel. You know what? I don't have to go to other countries to learn about them. I have all of the information of the world at my fingertips because I have a computer and an internet connection and a tablet and a phone. So I can research all kinds of stuff. So I know how great it is to be here. And it's not because I'll be honest, I have never left the continent of North America. But I have been to Canada and I have been to Mexico, and I don't want to live anywhere else. I don't care. I don't care about the supposed deep tapestry of culture in Europe because they have let it be destroyed. They just don't realize that they have yet. But this, to me, and there's a reason she's still on the screen right now, says so much because you have a raging liberal leftist lunatic who, in her own words, was in fight or flight mode and was so afraid of what life was going to be like if Trump was elected again that she moved somewhere else entirely. And she now regrets that decision. Because since she was in fight or flight mode, she didn't really do enough research and realize, hey, I don't really understand the language down here. I don't know how their culture works. And guess what? No other country besides us rolls out the red carpet for immigrants. Not even the legal ones. Because we do want immigration. This is one of the biggest fallacies of the left, and one of the ones that they have been able to beat us about the head and shoulders with over and over and over again is you hate immigrants. No, I don't. Hell, I'm an immigrant. For the most part, I do have some native DNA, but most of my ancestry comes from places like Ireland and Poland and a few other places because I'm a Heinz 57, as my grandpa used to call us. Because I've got a little bit of everything. But it doesn't mean that we don't like immigration. What we want is people that are immigrating here to try to make the country a better place, not to reshape it in their country's image. And that's what we have going on with the left right now. They have swung the gates so wide open that everyone was coming in, and now you have entire groups of people, most of which are of the Islamic faith, and I say that as a blatant misnomer because there's no such thing as the Islamic faith. There is the Islamic governmental system masquerading as a faith. But it's not actually a faith, which is one of the reasons why anytime anybody, well, you're violating their First Amendment rights. No, I'm not. because they are operating and practicing law that is antithetical to U.S. law. That is not a violation of First Amendment. Yeah, I get it, but they've been here so long, BZ, that they're considered native because they came here apparently thousands of years ago. So, but yeah, you're right. Nobody's native to anywhere unless you count wherever the Garden of Eden originally was at. That's about our only native spot, whether anybody wants to admit it or not, because we all migrated from there in one way or the other. But again, now I've offended half the liberals on YouTube. They're like, "Oh my gosh, he's in the Garden of Eden. He's a damn Christian." Yes, I am a Christian. I'm sorry. I understand that it's hard for you to comprehend that something can come from nothing, because that can't happen. But according to you guys, it can. Which is funny because I actually got in a theological debate with somebody a few months ago, and it was very interesting because they were like, well, we know, and again, and the funny thing about all this is now even the Big Bang Theory is starting to be revisited, but they brought up the Big Bang Theory, and I'm like, okay, so what caused the Big Bang? We don't know. So could it be possible, because remember, when the Big Bang happened, there was a bright flash of light. Could it be possible that when God said, "Let there be light," that is what triggered the Big Bang? Well, then why does the Bible say that the earth was created in 7 days? Does anybody know how long a day is to an immortal being? Pretty sure, probably pretty long. So then let's take everything else at face value. So you say something came from nothing, was completely accidental. I say there was at least some form of design intelligence involved, even if you're not willing to admit what that design intelligence might be. Are you willing to submit to the fact that something had to be designed behind the creation? Well, no, because we don't have any way to prove it. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of it. I say when we die, we meet our creator. What do you say? We go back to being nothing. So you're saying you meet your creator. Because if nothing created us and we return to nothing, isn't that returning to your... That was when the conversation stopped, in case you're wondering. We're like, yeah, I'm not having this conversation with you anymore. But anyway, this whole women want to leave the country thing, I find rather humorous. First of all, most of them are probably the awfuls anyway, so we'd probably be better if we let them. And if we let them, just don't let them back in. Starting to see this. This is according to Daniel Goldman. ICE is not at airports to help TSA and reduce lines. They are here without identification, in parentheses, trying to arrest people exactly as I predicted. ICE must be abolished, blah, blah, blah. So here's the problem with that, though. Even if this is the case, and ICE is there, and they're arresting people, doesn't that mean they're probably arresting illegal people? You know, that's kind of their job, is to find people that aren't legally supposed to be here and remove them. So here's the other thing. If they are actually arresting and removing people, doesn't that mean the lines would actually be starting to get shorter? Even if only by drabs and dribbles? Just saying. So, yeah. So here's the problem. You guys can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we're not going to fund TSA because of this, and then when Donald Trump finds a solution to bring more bodies into the fight to help with TSA, well, we don't like this because they're doing this instead. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? Now, I will be the first one to tell you, as far as I'm concerned, the Department of Homeland Security should not exist, at least not in the way that it does. So that's why I'm just kind of laughing about this fight, because the same folks that are usually want all the big government are suddenly like, we don't like the fact that we have government so big that it's getting kind of hard to control it. Welcome to the party, dumbass. It's too bad you're only using this for political purposes, though, and don't actually mean it. Because no, DHS in its current form shouldn't exist in the way that it does. Because we don't need more government bureaucracy. We need less government bureaucracy. And I've been saying that for years, as soon as I did a deep dive on the Patriot Act, because, we were all, kind of like this woman that was just on the screen a minute ago. We were all living in these moments of fear. And at that point, our government stepped in and said, we're going to make it better. And this is how we're going to do it. And we're like, yay. And then we realized that we ceded a lot of our freedom for security, just like a certain founding father warned us that if we did, it would be bad. And we're slowly finding out how bad it's been. So I don't have an issue. If we're going to have an honest discussion about whether Department of Homeland Security should exist, or at least if it does exist, make it much smaller and give it a much less heavy footprint, and use some of the stuff that's come about it through it has been pretty good if they use it, but they don't most of the time. Because one of the biggest things that we found after 9/11 was we don't have very solid or strong or even consistent interagency communication. But that's because up until now, all of the independent agencies have felt like they were kind of competing with one another instead of working together. DHS was supposed to help quash that. Has it? No. So it's not doing one of its core missions. Then you have Federal Agent Barbie, who makes herself like the center of everything regarding DHS. And look, I don't necessarily think that she did a terrible job. I think she did I think she took the wrong approach, because this wasn't the next federal agent reality TV show. The next federal star coming up on CNN. No, that's not what this was supposed to be about. So she made it all about her. Now she's getting smacked around, and that's fine. She kind of deserves it. And I'm also, I know I'm all over the place right now, but I'm trying to make up for lost time. I also just saw a report of who it is. It looks like Kevin Stitt plans on appointing as Mullen's replacement. We may get into that after the break, which we're about to take in a second. Show clock's going to be a little off today because of the sound issue, but we're going to get through it. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Comes in, somebody answers. Day or night, they're already moving. Calm voices, fast hands, doing the work while the rest of the world freezes. From a headset to a truck, from a badge to a door, they don't stop to count the cost. They step in when it matters. It's not about being seen, it's about being there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Before the sirens fade, before the scene is clear, someone's already making sense of the moment. Keeping people alive, keeping things from getting worse. Some run toward danger, some stay behind and hold it together. Different roles, same weight, same promise to show up.
everything's on the line. They're already there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood, when everything falls. They don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. This is service, this is sacrifice, this is how lives are saved. No spotlight, no applause, just showing up again and again. They're holding the line when the world goes dark. When everything's breaking, they hold their ground. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line. So we raise our voices for the ones who stand. Every voice, every badge, every helping hand. They don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Always standing in the gap for us all. For those who run and for those who hold steady, for those who stand in the gap.
And welcome back into the Monday edition. I know, I'm sad it's Monday too. Of the Rick Robinson Show, live right here on KLRMradio.com. Don't forget to be back tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern for America Off the Rails as well. And then hopefully after that, we'll have Sean Lewis with The Edge of Liberty. All right, and also want to make a quick announcement. We have added a new show to our schedule. Unfortunately, due to me taking an extended nap and him having a technical issue on Friday night, we did not launch as anticipated, but he is hoping to have things fixed by Friday, where we will be adding Beer and Bullstein to the KLM radio syndication schedule at 7 p.m. Eastern on every Friday and Saturday. So anyway, so that's happening. So that's happening because we're starting to grow. Oh, also, don't want to give away too much, but I have a call scheduled with someone tomorrow who may be starting another streaming platform soon. So, yeah. Lots of interesting things happening. And once I know, you guys will know, because we will probably bring them in as a partner as long as I like what they're trying to do. So, anyway. All right. Yeah, I had a feeling something weird was going on when he was having issues being heard Friday night. I need to text you, because if something like that happens again, since I usually have an open channel, I have a workaround for next time. So I'll text you about that later, because I thought about that the other day. I was like, I could have just done that, and then he still could have been on camera. Yeah, anyway. All right, so... Yeah, you're still supposed to be sending me those things. And as far as I know, you haven't emailed them to me yet. So anyway, trying to expand the label so I'm not just putting out the stuff that I do. So anyway, all right. So let's see. I had something queued up and ready to go and then got distracted talking with the chat. So let's get that set up here. We'll play first, then discuss.
What I know is that we always come together. It was under President Trump's leadership that we had the extremely successful summit in The Hague, where we agreed to spend 5% of our GDPs on defense, and therefore equalizing for the first time since Eisenhower. So this is quite some time back in history, equalizing what the Europeans are spending and what the Americans are spending. Not only because it is fair that we all spend the same, and this was a wish from Trump 45 and now it's Trump 47. He got this done, but also because we need it, because of the Russian threat and our other adversaries. Then on Ukraine, it is again the US providing critical intelligence support and a weapons flow, working together with the Europeans to secure Ukraine's fight against the Russians, making sure they have what they need. And now with Iran, I'm absolutely convinced. And I understand the president's frustration that it takes some time. But again, I also ask for some understanding, because nations had to prepare for this, not knowing, and for good reasons, about the initial attack on Iran. But now coming together to make sure that we can be able to secure the Strait of Hormuz.
So there you have Secretary General of NATO blowing up every leftist argument known to man when it comes to the situation in Iran. So yeah, they're not happy today, and they probably shouldn't be. But we'll get into that in a second. Before we do that, I do have something else I have to do first. So hang on. We have breaking news. Breaking news is the following. Notice has released a ruling, and the ruling today is as follows. The Supreme Court has reversed a Second Circuit decision in a 2015 Fourth Amendment case. In a case stemming from a protest over a decade ago, the Supreme Court delivered a decision this week about qualified immunity. The Supreme Court on Monday ruled in Zorn v. Linton that a Vermont state police sergeant is entitled to qualified immunity in a case brought by protesters following a dispute at the Vermont Capitol in 2015. In an unsigned per curiam opinion, the majority reversed the decision of a lower court which had sided against the police officer's use of force in the case. The Second Circuit held that Zorn was not entitled to qualified immunity, and according to a very abbreviated SCOTUS opinion, they basically just said, we reverse. The case revolves around a protest at the Vermont governor's inauguration on January 8, 2015. Sheila Linton, a protester participating in an organized sit-in at the state capitol building to demand universal health care, anticipated being forcibly removed. After some other protesters were removed by police officers, Sergeant Jacob Zorn approached Linton and attempted to get her to comply. When she resisted, Zorn unlinked her arms from the human chain the protesters had formed, put her arm behind her back in a rear wrist lock, and twisted her arm. Linton alleged that Zorn's actions resulted in physical and psychological injuries, including post-traumatic stress disorder. Officials enjoy qualified immunity unless their conduct violates clearly established law, according to the opinion. The bar for finding an official in violation is quite high, since it generally demands both a precedent in case law as well as a high degree of specificity. The Supreme Court's ruling argued that the lower court relied too heavily on a 2004 case, Amnesty America versus West Hartford, which itself arguably did not clearly establish that the specific use of force employed by Zorn violated the Constitution. Reasonable officials would not interpret Amnesty America to establish that using a routine wrist lock to move a resistant protester after warning her without more violates the Constitution. Of course, Justice Sonia Sotomayor dissented from the majority opinion and was joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji, tell me I can't tell you what a woman is, Brown Jackson. The dissenting opinion held that the Second Circuit did not err in holding that Zorn is not entitled to qualified immunity at this stage. At the very least, the decision below was not so wrong as to warrant the extraordinary remedy of a summary reversal. However, great day for law enforcement. Qualified immunity is still a thing, so definitely wanted to talk about that. All right, so back to this, because this is just piling up win after win after win for Donald Trump, and one of them comes from what a lot of folks thought was a faux pas the other day. And BZ, I promise I'm not picking on you about it. I don't I don't want you to think I'm trying to single you out, because I'm going to be talking about it again because of the Japanese reaction to this thing. And again, it comes from, people possibly not understanding how that culture works. The fact that Donald Trump was able to take a moment where they feel such abject shame and make a joke about it brought them up again. They have been living with the shame of what they caused to happen in their own country for so long that they have felt beneath us. This is why, and I'll be honest, I didn't say anything until I actually got a chance to watch the video. But this is why, after I watched the video and I saw her glaring at the reporter and not staring down at her shoes, that I understood that there was a Western culture issue here. We assumed it was embarrassing. According to a lot of Japanese folks that I've been seeing making posts ever since, not only did it not embarrass them, it elevated them because it allowed them to let go of the baggage that they personally have been carrying since Hiroshima and Nagasaki because of how their culture works. They carry the sins of their ancestors. Their culture requires that they do so. By Donald Trump making everyone laugh about the incident, it was a signal to them that they could finally let that go. And this, again, I'm not singling anybody out. I'm not trying to make anybody feel dumb. I'm just pointing out we made, in a lot of cases, the people that saw this and went, ooh, he shouldn't have done that. We made the same mistake with their culture that we make with Middle Eastern culture. We assume they're going to react to things the same way that we do, and they are not. So what we took offense with, they took liberation from. And they have, for the first time since World War II, been able to set some of that baggage down. And I have seen post after post after post about that ever since. And this goes back to exactly what we were talking about a moment ago before the breaking news, is people don't understand that even though it didn't happen right away, even though he didn't build the coalition beforehand, Donald Trump is actually wrangling all of Western civilization right now instead of following Joe Biden and Barack Obama's lead from behind policy. So they are building a coalition. They are about to release the Strait of Hormuz situation and fix that. Now we're finding out that apparently there are negotiations happening with someone who is apparently not the cardboard Ayatollah, and they anticipate hopefully some form of movement within the next few days. Then you've got the left screaming and yelling about this and that and all the other things without realizing that if this works, we're changing the face of the planet for the next at least decade or so. But back to this, because I want to get into this a little further. So NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte appeared on Face the Nation to talk about the Strait of Hormuz and the threats from Iran. And I'm probably going to butcher his name because I've never actually heard him pronounce it. I'm just going to keep saying Rutte because I'm not sure. Explained that the good news was that 22 countries were all coming together to make sure that the Strait of Hormuz was free. He explained they'd always gotten things achieved before, as when President Donald Trump had gotten things like the NATO allies to pay their 5% share, which helped to provide for greater defense. He said he was absolutely convinced they could do the job when it came to Iran. Most of the 22 nations involved are, of course, NATO countries. Others involved also include Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. So we're now planning the military people and others amongst this group of 22 nations and with the U.S. He didn't specifically identify what military assets were being deployed. UN Ambassador Mike Waltz spoke on Face the Nation about Japan potentially providing some help from its naval assets, since about 80% of what's coming out of the Gulf is going to Asia anyway, but they are restricted by law as to what they can provide after World War II. Japanese Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi on Sunday hinted at the possibility of sending the country's self-defense forces for minesweeping operations in the Straits of Hormuz, provided that a ceasefire is realized. Root followed Walt and spoke about Iran targeting Diego Garcia with 2 intermittent range ballistic missiles. Missiles, IRBM. The targeting of an island 2,500 miles away from Iran suggested that they could potentially hit European capitals and U.S. bases in Europe. Iran had previously denied having such capability. So you're saying they lied to us again. So that's what you're saying. Is anyone else surprised that they lied to us again? I, for one, not so much. All right. So anyway, I don't know if I don't think this is the same clip. So hang on. Let's watch this. Let me get it queued up. I think it may be a continuation of one of the previous ones. It may even. I think it's Waltz. I think there's not a name on there. All right, here we go.
But Israel says these were intercontinental ballistic missiles that could hit Berlin, Paris, and Rome. Does NATO share that Israeli assessment?
We cannot confirm that at the moment, so we're looking into that. But if this would be true, it is the more evidence that what the president is doing here, taking out the ballistic missile capability, taking out the nuclear capability from Iran,
same guy.
is crucial. Exactly as the ambassador just said, Ambassador Waltz. We have seen with North Korea, if we negotiate for too long, you might pass the moment where you can still get this thing done. And North Korea now has the nuclear capability. If Iran would have the nuclear capability, including together with the missile capability, it would be a direct threat, an existential threat to Israel, to the region, to Europe, to the stability in the world. So the president doing this is crucial. And I've seen the polling, but I really hope the American people will be with him, because he is doing this to make the whole world safer.
All right, so there you have kind of a continuation of the theme. And I don't know. I know I talk a lot of crap about NATO and especially the UN. I kind of feel like Trump's hurting them pretty well, though. So, because, we're not doing that whole lead from behind thing anymore. Anyway, all right. All right. And again, BZ, I promise I wasn't trying to single you out. I just, because a lot of folks got that wrong. There were a lot of folks, even our side, that were like, I can't believe he said that. I mean, can I say I probably wouldn't have said it publicly? Not so much, but I probably would have. Understanding, or see, that's the thing. I do my best to try to understand other cultures, so I can kind of figure out where they're coming from when they do things that everybody else is like, why the heck would they do that? So yeah. I would have figured out a way to probably communicate it in a back channel way, maybe. But then again, it going viral was one of the things that caused Japanese people to be able to see it. And they're like, you mean we can stop now? Which they should have been able to do a long time ago, but their culture is a little weird. All right, so we got to talk about this real quick. So apparently Pierre Poilievre recently went on Joe Rogan's podcast. So let's see what's going on with that. So Pierre Poilievre may be taking a page from Donald Trump's playbook for American audiences. Poilievre is Canada's conservative leader and top challenger for prime minister, a sharp-tongued critic of liberal governance who has fused free market economics with a populist political style. Trump's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast was widely credited, fairly or not, with helping him connect with voters outside of the traditional media bubble. You guys can thank Barron for that, by the way. Now, with his own poll numbers tightening, Poilievre has stepped onto the same stage, betting that a long-form, unfiltered conversation can do what scripted interviews often cannot. And it's hard to pinpoint the high point of Poilievre's appearance on Rogan's show because there were several. And I'm going to see if I can actually find some of the videos for later. But here's an excerpt. Poilievre didn't just avoid the risks his critics predicted. He made the format work for him. Like Trump before him, he used Rogan's show, not as a gauntlet, but as a platform. And I have to admit, I haven't watched that one yet, so I probably will watch it before Wednesday so that we can discuss it a little more. If not before Wednesday, then definitely before Friday. But yeah, so that's interesting. And of course, over the weekend, it was announced that Robert Mueller passed away. I think it was over the weekend. It was either Thursday or it was either Friday or Saturday. I honestly don't remember. And of course, Donald Trump, as far as a lot of folks were concerned, stepped in it again and said, "Good, I'm glad he's dead." Everybody was like, "Can we, dude?" Even people I work with, again, were like, "I can't. Can we just have 1 second where somebody's not dancing on somebody's grave?" I'm like, "Did you guys not? Did you not realize who you voted for?" I mean, I'm going to say it again. This is one of the things that it took me a while to get over. This is why I couldn't vote for him in 2016, because he's just so blunt and so gruff. And a lot of folks have pointed out that apparently, even though I have lots of friends from New York, I don't really understand how New Yorkers think. Yeah, I see BZ continuing Trump's feelings on Mueller. Yeah, anyway. All right, so we are at top of the hour. We're going to have to take a break. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. I do this thing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from noon to 2. When I'm not on, make sure you're hanging out over in SHR Media's YouTube chat on Tuesdays and Thursdays for Mission Ready Men the Mission Ready Men briefing by none other than Big Earl Jackson. And okay, I think that's going to do it for this hour. We're going to get this one in the books. Well, sort of hour, because there's about 10 minutes. I'll have to edit later. But anyway, it's not my fault, man. It's Monday. Stop judging me. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Shut the lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of stand tall when they tell you to kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your faith as greed. But freedom don't need permission, it just needs men who bleed. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of standing tall when they tell you kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never change the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free, it's written in red on history's page. A warning to the tyrants and the cowards of the age. They can bury us in silence, but the truth still screams. Freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLR.
Come gather round the footlights, lads, and hear the old boards groan. A tale of ink and iron will, of voices overblown. From mics and scripts to painted sails, we've traded shore for sea. The players will man the rigging soon. Aye, your hands, follow me. From Long John shadowed silver grin to Jim with compass true. We speak the words, we wear the scars, we make the old world new. No gold without the work behind, no legend without sweat. A stage, a ship, a single breath. The course is not set yet. We players sail, we players sail, we players sail soon. All hands to KLRN Radio, setting sail for Treasure Island, March 2026.
Anyway, so yeah, we did finally manage a date, and like I said, they said spring, I heard March, and I just never really got back around to fixing it, because like, you know what, I put a lot of work into that, and it's probably going to mess up if I change anything. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled commercials.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Red dirt roads to the Capitol steps. Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real, tune in, speak up, and feel what we feel.
All right, I know it's Monday. I'm sad about it too, but let's try to have a little bit of fun. I haven't done one of these in a while. I used to try to save them for Fridays, but this one won't hold that long. And we get to make fun of Kathy Hoochie Cooch Holstrill again, so why not? All right, so anyway, this is from our friends over at This Week in Democracy, otherwise known as Buffoon of the Week. Also, host and co-host of Behind the Enemy Lines Radio, Gene Baradelli. All right, here we go.
The era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong.
Why does it seem so quiet? Because you're using a manual slider that has both of those things tied to it, dum-dum.
The era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong.
Just if you want to be supportive, but maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering. America, welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in Democracy, where we showcase dumb newsmakers like New York Governor Kathy Hochul and her double dip into the well of hypocrisy. Over the weekend, over 2,000 of you tuned into a short video here on the channel featuring Kathy Hochul in a clip from 2022 encouraging, in fact, driving people out of the People's Republic of New York who disagree with her politics and disagree with the way she runs her state. Fast forward to last week, and Hochul is now begging and pleading for those same people that she said to go to Florida to return from Palm Beach and to bring their money with them. Oh, how times have changed. But on more of a life of its own, because when people of high net worth that she wants to come back to the state, like Barstool's Dave Portnoy, criticize Hochul for the manner in which she's trying to bring back people into the state and to bring back that money, Hochul responds in such an unserious manner that you have to question whether or not she's actually learned anything at all about the politics of division that she has sown for years now. We're going to review Hochul's past statements and her present statements, as well as take a look at this online X feud between Hochul and Portnoy. But before we get to all that, I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the shows. And if you like what you're seeing here in this or any other video on the channel, smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that really good stuff, because all that's going to help the channel continue to grow thanks to all those social media algorithms.
What? Feed me! Okay.
Oh, sorry, you caught me taking a sip out of my People's Republic of New York City bar glass, which is available in our store at shop.buffoonoftheweek.com, which you can access via the QR code right above my head, or if you're watching on YouTube, via the store tab on our channel.
This guy is a grifter.
All right, enough of the grift. Let's get to the clips. This is from a 2022 campaign rally in the People's Republic of New York, where Kathy Hochul made this statement.
And we're here to say that the era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay? Get out of town. Get out of town. Because you don't represent our values. You are not New Yorkers.
Rude. So as you just heard, Hochul was not shy about telling 5.4 million Republicans to just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong because they're not real New Yorkers. Getting beyond the disgusting partisanship of this message and how intolerant Hochul is, people did just that. In fact, even before this 2022 speech, New Yorkers were leaving in droves. Over 1.5 million New Yorkers left the state for greener pastures between 2012 and 2022.
So long, losers!
This was not only an intolerant message from Hochul, but a fiscally irresponsible one. In fact, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure Hochul knew this back then, New York State's public sector is heavily reliant on personal income taxes paid by residents. So when you lose 1.5 New Yorkers in a decade, and then going forward into this year, another 500,000 or so left as well, you end up with budget shortfalls like the city and the state of New York are experiencing right now.
What about my dreams? What about my money?
Now is a great time to remind Mamdani and Hochul of Margaret Thatcher's famous quote, "The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money." And that's where she stands right now.
Let me frame it this way. I know New Yorkers are exasperated. They feel that everything's stacked against them. They're not getting ahead. Their rents are too damn high. Their child care costs are high. Their utility bills, and thank you to Washington, we're going to have higher prices at the pump. We already do. Everything just seems so hard for people. So I understand that frustration. You should join me in the North Country yesterday in Ogdensburg and Watertown, and people are so upset about the tariffs, raising the cost of everything. So there is this anxiety, which is real, and we're continuing to address the affordability crisis, which I believe should be the #1 priority of this legislative session. What can we do to take off some of that pain that New Yorkers are feeling that I hear about literally every day?
Well, I mean, some austerity would help, right? Notice how she tried to blame the federal government and the Trump administration for tariffs and the war going on with Iran, increasing oil prices. Yeah, those are recent problems. But what about the over a decade history of the inflation of the budget of the People's Republic of New York for this never-ending cycle of social welfare programs and things that are completely unnecessary in the state? How about we start talking about releasing the state burden on businesses, releasing that economic engine, and getting people back working and creating and innovating like we used to do once upon a time before this rise in socialism in the People's Republic of New York. But as you'll hear, Hochul is not thinking that way at all.
What I want to make sure we are smart about is having a system in place where it's not just taxing for the sake of taxing, and being conscious of the facts that I need people who are high net worth to support the generous social programs that we want to have in our state.
Which means she needs more money.
Hochul drove these people out, these high net worth people, out of the state with all of her tax and spend policies, and now she wants them to come back. But what is the reason that they would want to come back? It's just going to be more of the same. She just wants to use their money to create more programs that are going to waste that money, that's going to drive up taxes even more, and just perpetuate this monolithic cycle of socialism that Mamdani wants to foster in New York City and that he wants the state to pay for.
Right. Now, there are some patriotic millionaires who stepped up. Okay, cut me the checks. I mean, just if you want to be supportive, but maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home.
Come crawling back, eh?
Because our tax base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals. And I would say remote work changed everything. There were people who could only work in an office in Manhattan or work in New York State, and they were captives to our state. They were going to stay. We saw that that's not the case. I mean, you know, Wall Street businesses looking at Texas, they're not going there because they have a nicer governor. I know that for sure. But they're going there because of the tax rate. We have to be smart about this. But we can fund what we want to fund with what we already are taking in.
Well, look who just caught up.
Oh no, Kathy Hochul has learned about the law of competition. Yes, businesses, high net worth people, they don't want to have their earnings taxed. They're going to go to places that are more friendly in an environment for business and for their own personal income taxes. Duh, welcome to the game, Kathy. People have been leaving for over a decade from your state. You're just catching on now? So what are you going to do to attract these high net worth people from Palm Beach, where you sent them, by the way, to come back to the People's Republic of New York? Are you going to make your state more competitive, more attractive to those businesses? Or are you just going to beg them for money and not give them anything in return? This is sort of the point that's being made by Barstool's Dave Portnoy, and that triggered a childish, immature response from the governor's office. From the New York Post, Hochul dredges up embarrassing Dave Portnoy scandal after he rips her as hypocrite for a plea to millionaires. Hochul's office dredged up a scandal involving Portnoy's cheating ex-girlfriend after he blasted Hochul in a post on X. Portnoy said, quote, "The unbelievable arrogance and hypocrisy of begging millionaires to return to New York while the new mayor simultaneously says he despises millionaires and supports communism. I wonder why people are flocking to Florida." In response, Hochul put out this statement on social media about soul cycles being prevalent in New York and bit back with an apparent reference to a cheating scandal that embroiled Portnoy nearly a decade ago, 10 years ago, when he found out his girlfriend had been having relations with her soul cycle instructor.
What's going on?
Dirty politics?
So here's that second dip of hypocrisy from Hochul. She's trying to attract these high net people to New York after hypocritically telling them to get the hell out and go to Florida. Now she's taking one of those high net people who are criticizing her and basically saying, F you, I'm going to be an edgelord and I'm going to bring up a personal scandal of yours from close to a decade ago involving some personal behavior of your ex with a soul cycle instructor. What message does that now send those high net worth people in those other states who she's trying to bring back? That if you dare criticize her, you're going to get the same edgelord treatment? Is that really going to help her efforts here? Or is that just showing that this is the second time she's been hypocritical in a week by saying, you know what? Yeah, I want your money, but I'm not going to bow down to you. I'm not going to incentivize you coming here. In fact, if you dare come up against me, I'm going to go right back up against you, and I'm not going to pull my punches. I'm going to get personal. I'm going to try to embarrass you, and then I'm just going to take your money.
Show some humility, for Christ's sake.
This is not the way to win friends or influence people at all, Kathy Hochul. All this is going to do is prove that, you know what? That statement back in 2022, that's the real you. That's the you you've always been. You don't want those people in the People's Republic of New York. You want to keep growing your social welfare state. You want to keep promoting socialism. You want to partner with people like Zoran Mamdani and just suck the lifeblood out of your residents. That's all you're looking to do. And those high net worth people are in the meanwhile being wined and dined by other states like Florida, like Texas. These havens for business where they are respected, where their money is respected, where their investment is respected and rewarded with incentives, and they build jobs and create more of an economic engine for the people that you say you want to be in competition with. If Hochul really wanted to be in competition, why isn't she competing with those states like Florida and Texas? All she's offering is a plea to help out the poor, downtrodden peoples of the People's Republic of New York that they originally left to their own devices. You get the government you vote for, by the way, and she's offering nothing in return.
Adapt or die.
And in saying that, she's saying that those people are being patriotic by coming here, sucking it up, dealing with the pain of the tax and spend Democrats and socialists in the People's Republic of New York City, and getting nothing in return.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
At least that's just my opinion on this whole situation. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, like and share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the shows. What do you think about this double dip of hypocrisy by Kathy Hochul in such a short amount of time? What do you think of Dave Portnoy's response? Did he deserve to get hit below the belt like that? Let's get into it together in the comments and talk about this and all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in Dumb Democracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners.
It's called political buffoonery.
All right, folks, we're going to take our second musical interlude of the show because I've got plenty of things to talk about when I start the break, so I just wanted to go ahead and get that done now. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
They say it's only real if somebody remembers. They say your legacy is only real if they can point and say that's him. If the room goes quiet when I walk in, if my shadow's longer than my sin, numbers climbing, names on screens, always craving accolades and needing to be seen. If they don't see me, I don't matter. If I'm not winning, what's the use? I gotta leave something carved in stone, something louder than the truth I know. 'Cause silence feels too close to death, and being forgotten scares me most. The world says it only matters if they see me, if they know my name. If I'm up in lights, I gotta burn it in so they remember. Before the darker night claims the light, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Yeah, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Say my name, don't let me fade away. I watch the faithful go unnoticed, hands so dirty from the work they never chase. Recognition, always walking in faith. Every prayer said in the shadows, every choice nobody praised. They weren't building monuments to fame, just kneeling to pray. Even when it was tough to stay, I felt the weight of what I wanted and the cost of what it took. I was chasing something empty while the answer overlooked. The world says it only matters if they see me, if they know my name. If I'm up in lights, gotta burn it in so they remember. Before the darker night claims the light, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. Yeah, I gotta make a mark before the lights go dark. If they don't see me, I don't exist. If they don't clap, did I even live? I need my name in fire and sparks. I gotta make it loud before the lights go dark. Truth be told, and God alone knows, I chase the crowd just to feel complete. I measure worth by clout, by those surrounding me. But there's only one name that matters, and I laid mine down to claim it. All these years I tried to leave a legacy when I was called to carry his name. The only thing worth leaving behind is a life that pointed back to him. Not my glory, not my fire, just faith that held when the whole world dimmed. It shouldn't matter if they knew my name. My life should be the proof of his glory. What matters is what they saw in me when the world was watching how I live my life. It never mattered if they saw me or if they ever knew my name. If they saw Jesus in my walk each day, then I ran my race the right way. Let the lights fade, let the noise fall. Heaven knows the choice I made. I don't need my name in the spotlight. If they saw Jesus in my walk each day, if they saw Jesus in my walk each day, if heaven knows my
And let's be very clear about something else. Non-citizen voting in federal elections is already illegal. It is a federal crime. If a non-citizen illegally votes in a federal election, they could be prosecuted and even sentenced up to 5 years in prison. Who is going to commit this kind of fraud knowing that they could be in prison for 5 years?
Gee, I don't know. Maybe the same people that broke into the country in the first place. Just saying. Yeah, kind of obvious. Anyway, so yeah, apparently there was a glitch there for a second, so you couldn't hear what I was saying during the return back from the break. But all I was really saying was the Democrats think you're stupid, and here's the proof. Because, yeah, none other than Mazie Hirono basically saying, yeah, why would anybody do this? They didn't follow our laws to get in here in the first place. Why do you think they're going to follow them now? Anyway, look, the truth of it is they think you're stupid. The establishment wants you beat about the head and shoulders because you keep siding with Trump, who is doing everything he can to destroy the establishment and actually make America what it was supposed to be again. And the truth is, both sides of the establishment party hate you. That's why we keep running into the same things over and over and over again, but it doesn't change anything because the truth of the matter is both sides hate you. The difference is one wants you to think that they're your best buddy. And it depends, because if you align with them politically, then you're that side's best buddy. But as soon as you start, thinking and speaking for yourself, suddenly you're the enemy of both. And in the latest edition of the the establishment thinks you're stupid, here is none other than Hakeem Jeffries claiming that because Trump is sending ICE to the airports because the Democrats are so petty and petulant that they won't fund anything ever if they can help it. Well, actually, you know what? There's a clip, so let's do that. Hang on. That way you guys can hear him say it.
He said, now with the death of Iran, the greatest enemy America has is the radical left, highly incompetent Democratic Party. Your response?
Donald Trump should keep his reckless mouth shut before he gets somebody killed.
Okay, so that wasn't about the ICE thing. That was about his comment, Trump's comment regarding now that,
He said,
Iran is starting to potentially be brought to heel, that one of the most dangerous things we have left is the Democratic Socialist Party. I only have one question, though. Where's the lie? Where's the lie in what Donald Trump said there? And the funny thing is, he never told Joe Biden to tone it down when Joe Biden was calling half the country terrorists. He never told Barack Obama to tone it down when Barack Obama said that half the country likes to cling to their Bible, their faith, and their guns, which makes them dangerous, was basically what he was saying. He never told Hillary Clinton to tone it down when she called half the country a basket of deplorables. So I'm sorry you guys are just now starting to figure out that we're tired of playing the game by the Marquis of Queensberry rules that the Republican Party has been playing with for the last half century, because we're over that. We as free Americans are over that because it puts way too many constraints on things. And I'm sorry, some of those restraints don't deserve to exist because they just don't. Because that's not how we win. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this again. America invented guerrilla warfare. We don't want to take credit for it. We assume it happened elsewhere. That's why the word guerrilla, it has a Spanish connotation to it. But we're the first ones that I know of that ever did it. Because war has always been, quote unquote, civilized. And there was this whole thing of people marching and setting up and lining up and then basically taking turns like it was some sort of turn-based role-playing game, taking shots at one another. And that's not how we've ever done this. And I've said this before. If not, if something like the court in Hague existed, America would have been found guilty of war crimes against Britain during our war for independence, because we would literally send, and literally and actually, sorry, Ron, send people in and just butcher them in their sleep. Because they were our enemies and they deserved to die. Now, we can try to pretend that we're more civilized than that, but not when we're dealing with something like Islam. And one of the things that this government shutdown has made a million times worse is our ability to do things like track down terror cells that are already within our borders, because Homeland Security isn't being properly funded. I would love to figure out how to spin down and despool all of Homeland Security, but now is not the time, because they are too intertwined in everything. All right, so this is the next clip in the Hakeem Jeffries train that we have today. So hang on, let me get it queued up first, because this one's going to be kind of interesting. Because it may not be what you expect, because I know I didn't expect it, but here we go.
Thank you, Leader Jeffries. Back in 2011, Nancy Pelosi said that then President Obama didn't need congressional approval to bomb Libya. Now House Democrats say President Trump needs that approval to bomb Iran. What's the difference?
Well, obviously, Libya and the circumstances connected to that were very different than the circumstance that we face in Iran right now. I mean, I don't even understand the genesis or basis of that question. I suggest that you're not asking it in good faith.
Libya went on for 7 months.
As I've indicated, first of all, it was not in Congress at the time. So we're dealing with what we're dealing with right now, which is a catastrophic, endless war, as Donald Trump has characterized it, without any justification that there was going to be a preeminent assault or attack on the United States of America, either in our homeland or as it relates to our interests in the Middle East. The administration is not even pretending like they have intelligence or information at this point, publicly. And certainly there's been nothing that has been presented to us privately to justify a preemptive strike of this nature that has triggered an all-out war in the Middle East.
And I know you're right. Rick, you've played this before. That's because I wanted to stop right here. This was not a preemptive strike. This country has been at war with us since 1979, and they have said so publicly and repeated it and attacked us at every opportunity when they figure they found a soft enough target. And the reason this clip matters so much today, in my opinion, is even though it came across like a bad bout of Angry Birds, because Iran's basically using a slingshot just to see how far they can throw a missile. And it didn't really do anything because one got intercepted and the other one went into the drink. It's still, they lied to us about their capability, because if they have missiles that can make a, what was it, roughly 2,500 kilometers, I think. If they have that kind of range, then they've been lying to us the entire time. And now you have, after Donald Trump made the announcement today that they have begun negotiation, and it seems like the mullahs are starting to look for an off-ramp, you have Iranian state TV saying, well, none of that's true. And we have people in America gobbling that up. Never in my life would I ever think that I believed Iranian TV news more than I believed our own American president, but here we are. That's because you're retarded. Not pulling any punches about it anymore. You're retarded. And coming from a guy with a face like this, that should hit home for you. Because, yes, I know. Some of you are like, well, yeah, look. I'm tired of surgeries, or I would have had it fixed a long time ago. I've had to have surgery several times in my life for different things, different injuries, different things that have happened, and I have coded on the table twice. So I'm done with surgeries. So, because I get this question all the time, why haven't you had that fixed? It's not that difficult. Because I've died twice on the table. Nearly 3 times, and I don't want no. But anyway, so yeah. Plus, I don't care enough because I really don't. Okay, so looks like Senator Kennedy's made the news again. Let's see if we can find out what that's about. How long has this been out? Oh, yeah, this has been out for a minute, so I guess I must have missed it. All right. Now, Senator Kennedy's kind of unpopular with his fellow Senate critters right now because he's the one proposing that they go without pay till they fix what they broke. And I, for one, happen to agree with him, but a lot of folks are not happy with him. But he had this to say. This is for what I've been doing lately. I know I'm playing longer clips than I have been for a while, but that's because I feel like they're important. And here's the latest one. So hang on.
Provide that when we are in a shutdown, that senators cannot be paid, cannot receive their salaries. Their checks would be, think of it this way, Mr. President, locked in a vault. And once the shutdown is over, the senators could pick them up. Now, if I think everybody in the Congress knows what I'm about to say, may be a bit cynical, but it's true. If I were king for a day, I'm not, and I don't aspire to be, and I wanted to avoid shutdowns, I would do two things. I would provide that members of Congress can't be paid during a shutdown, and I would provide that members of Congress can't leave Washington, D.C. during a shutdown. Now, I can't pass the second part of that. So I'm going to try to pass the first part of that. This resolution, again, it's not a bill, is about shared sacrifice. And I'm not doing it to punish anybody. I'm not doing it to try to embarrass anybody. I recognize that there are varying degrees of wealth among United States senators and their ability to go without a paycheck. I know and like every member of this body, and every member of this body has grown, who has a substantial amount of wealth, has achieved that wealth through their own hard work. And most, if not all of them, started with nothing. And you know what I say? God bless them. More power to them. That's America. So I want to put that up front because I'm sure that some are going to point out that some of our members are wealthier than others.
I'll go a step further, and I've been saying this for a while. I don't think the Senate should receive their full salaries until we vote as to whether or not they deserve their full salaries. And I don't mean a nationwide vote. I think each individual state should be able to hold a vote at the end of the year to determine whether they feel their Senate critters deserve the rest of their salary or not. And before then, they should receive nothing but stipends, like they used to. Because this is the thing, folks. Congress was never intended to be a paid position. It was intended to be a life of service. And the reason it was a life of service was because there was a time, because travel used to take so long, that senators and Congress critters had to have regular jobs. They were doctors and lawyers and all those things. So they would be home most of the time within their constituency, doing their daily practices or their daily workloads, and then they would go to D.C. during special times to be able to cast votes, etc. I think with technology the way it is today, we need to get back to a form of that. I think there should be times, very important times or very, ceremonial times when folks are in Washington, D.C. for things like inaugurations, for certain votes, etc. But most of the work that D.C. Democrats and Republicans do today can and should be being done remotely. It's simple enough. The technology exists that we don't have to have them in D.C. 322 days out of the year. If they were actually having to live among their people again, they might be a little more reticent to do some of the crazy ass shenanigans that a lot of them have done. And that includes party people on both sides of the aisle, because they're being dumb. But I firmly believe that nobody in Congress should be paid until we verify that they've done the work, because they're supposed to be our servants, not our masters. And we, at some point, have allowed them to take how things were supposed to be and turn them around and make it completely different. Because now we work for them, not the other way around. They tax us to make sure they get their salaries. Which, guess what? That means we work for them. We are the labor that fuels their inanity. And we have let it be that way for far too long. Far too long. And I'm saying that about both sides, because there are people on both sides of the aisle that I disagree with. First of all, I don't know what happened to Thomas Massey, but he's completely lost his mind. Rand Paul may be considered a principled politician, but he's an asshat. Because he doesn't do anything. He doesn't accomplish anything. Thomas Massey doesn't do anything, doesn't accomplish anything. He makes these grandstands in Congress and then sends out fundraising emails. And, oh, he's fighting for us. We should fund him. And here's the other thing. Why in the hell is a Congress critter from Kentucky able to send out a nationwide funding email? You want to be funded? Get funded in Kentucky. Leave me alone. We have got to start being disciplined among ourselves again, because we're supposed to be the bosses. And I get it. Life is hard and life is busy. But if you don't want to wind up being a communist third world shithole, then you should start carving out some time to pay attention, because that's what both sides want. I've said this before, and in the final few minutes of the program, I think instead of going into the other stuff that I was going to talk about, I'm going to say it again. There was this grand idea after World War II that we were going to start building up third world nations into second world nations and eventually into first world nations, then bring everybody together and then figure out how to do some form of central government. Because that's kind of the trigger for, things to happen, for Christ to return, or even for the Muslims, that the world has to be bathed in blood for the Grand Imam to return. Those kind of things. So we started in our human fallacy kind of way that we do things to try to start to speed up the process. Even though the book plainly says no man knows the day or the hour, no one knows except my Father. I don't even know. But so the problem is it didn't work. And it didn't work because human greed got in the way. All these things that we were trying to do to supposedly make these countries better and to make their people healthier and smarter and able to raise crops and do all these things started being gobbled up by special interest groups, and they got in the way. If you don't believe me, you're seeing it happen here in America now. We have $81,000 per year being spent on homeless people in New York City, when that is right around the median income for the city of New York City. At this point, if you're just going to go full on socialism, you might as well just hand them the $81,000 a year as a UBI and see what they do with it, because they can't do any worse than you are. If that's the way you guys are going to go, then just go. But nobody wants to talk about the fact that with all of these programs that are supposed to be, well, this is to make everybody's life easier. This is to make things easier for people that are struggling. There's all of these administrators that get in the way, and they gobble up as much of the money as they can, and then they justify their existence by saying, we need more of your money to fix this. How much more of our money do you possibly need? But this goes back to another point that I've been making all along. Your government is never going to get rid of itself. And if your government actually started fixing what was really broken, you wouldn't need them anymore. This is why they hate Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is actually trying to fix what's broken and shrink our government. They can't have that. They don't want that. They need the government to be bigger. They need things like the Abominable Care Act. They need them because it was intended by people that knew what they were doing as the framework to put us into a system similar to what Europe, what England has, or what Britain has, and now what Canada has, which would eventually lead to, well, if your life's that hard, we can just help you end it. Because then it becomes, the old communist adage of, do you produce more potatoes than you consume? Because once you consume more potatoes than you produce, we don't need or want you anymore. And now you've got people in Canada complaining that people with depression have been offed by the government. And their family members are like, what the hell? You get what you vote for. But that's exactly what I'm talking about here. These people want these things to happen. One, if they can get you to take a needle in the arm, you're helping to shrink population. A smaller population is much easier to control than a larger one. That's why everything from Agenda 21 to now Agenda 2030 has had population control as a major means to implement the things that they want to do. And I know most of you, well, that's nothing but conspiracy theory. Is it really? Is it really? After what you saw happen with COVID, if you can't see the writing on the wall anymore, I don't have a light bright enough to make you see it. But I wish I did. Because your government isn't always working for you. As a matter of fact, a lot of times your government is working contrary to your interests. There are a handful of people that have tried to come in and do the job the right way. And sadly, a lot of them get chewed up and spit out by the machine and then become DC's version of the Borg, where they went in with the best of intentions and they come out looking like they're no different than anyone else who was already there. And again, the scariest thing about all of this, all of it, is we don't pay enough attention anymore. And I mean we in the collective sense, not necessarily those that listen to shows like this one on the daily. Because a lot of folks don't. Hell, I was at a birthday party this Sunday, and family members that I hadn't seen in forever are like, okay, so what are you doing now? So I started explaining all the different things that I do, and the consulting company, and the production company, and the podcast work, and the writing, and that it all mostly centered around politics. Oh, I don't even turn that stuff on anymore. I don't even pay attention to any of that anymore. And I get it, because for a lot of folks, it's blissful when you can get away from it. But when they're trying to kill you, I'm sorry, YouTube, when they're trying to unalive you, you should probably be paying more attention. Or at least pay attention to the people that pay attention, so that you don't necessarily have to, if you don't want to. But the truth of all of this is the same as it's always been. Your government is never going to fix itself unless you make it. And you make it by sending people that are going to do the job. Did you just say no? Wait. I have sound again. I have sound on my end. Hang on, let me check something. It's been a glitchy kind of day, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with me for a second while I check something. Yeah, I'm listening to it right now, BZ. I have sound, so you might need to refresh. All right. But yeah, there was a sound issue coming out from the break earlier because I had to mute something because of the echo that was being created, and then I forgot to unmute because it's Monday and I'm tired. All right. So, okay, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. But here is the Democrats' new master plan for reclaiming power. And then we'll probably close things down for the day. So this is from Amy Curtis over at Town Hall again. And I'm going to put this on the screen just so you guys can see it while I kind of read along through here in a second. Actually, I guess it's from an article from the Bulwark. But the reason I wanted to put this on the screen is because this is the new Democratic master plan. They want to bring back thirst traps for voters. Dems want hotter candidates on the ballot. Funny thing about all of that, though, if you look at who they've centered things around, it's people that have already been elected. And hang on, I just realized that. Well, you guys can still see it, so hang on. Let me see if I can make it bigger, though. All right, here we go. All right, so yeah, this is from the Bulwark. And thirst traps over think tanks. Dems want hotter candidates on the ballot. And of course, Amy Curtis wrote about it, which is where we're going to be pulling most of this from. So the Democratic Party platform is, yeah, we're messed up, but we're good looking, so elect us. What I find most interesting about this whole thing, though, is when you look at that image, one, most of those people were Democrats ages ago. And two, what's missing? What's missing? Even the black guy on the screen is only half black. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, even the lone black guy on the screen is half black. Sounds like an Affleck commercial. Half black. I'm sorry. Did I mention I'm sleep deprived and tired today? It's been a crazy weekend. I had double birthday parties. We had juxtaposition on Saturday night. I've had tons of work I've had to get done around here. So if I seem a little more discombobulated than normal, which is saying something, that would be why. Okay, hang on. We gotta talk about this. I didn't see this till just now, but it came out. No, actually, I guess it was today, and it just dropped a little bit ago, which is probably why I haven't seen it yet. So consider this another breaking news update, but I'm not playing the sounder. Apparently, Riverside County Sheriff and California gubernatorial candidate Chad Bianco has seized over 650,000 ballots from the November special election as part of a criminal investigation into possible voter count issues. The votes were related to Proposition 50, a measure that would temporarily redraw California's districts to favor Democratic candidates. The seizure kicked off a fight between Bianco and California election officials. The Los Angeles Times reported that Bianco announced the seizure during a Friday news conference. The story garnered attention because Bianco is not only the sheriff, but one of the highest profile Republican candidates running in the governor's race. And I quote, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, a leading Republican candidate for governor, has seized more than 650,000 ballots from last November's election to determine, he says, whether they were fraudulently counted. This investigation is simple. Physically count the ballots and compare that result with the total votes recorded, Bianco said at a news conference he held on Friday. The unusual probe drew a sharp rebuke from California Attorney General Rob Bonta, who said in a statement that it is unprecedented in both scope and scale and appears not to be based on facts or on evidence. Critics, meanwhile, said Bianco's ballot seizure is a threat to democracy and another attempt by Republican election deniers to disenfranchise voters. And I quote, there is no indication anywhere in the United States of widespread voter fraud, Bonta said. Counts, recounts, hand counts, audits, and court cases all support this. Except he's lying, because the court cases don't support this. What we kept hearing over and over and over again from all of the people that were bringing up the possible election fraud court cases was the people bringing the suits didn't have standing, so therefore the courts couldn't address the issue. So that's not the court siding with the election integrity folks who are saying we don't have an issue. It's the court saying the people that were trying to bring the cases don't have standing with us, so we don't have any way to delve into this any further. And that is one of the things that has driven me the most crazy about this whole, there's no proof that there's been any election issues, except again, I would like to remind you that in Georgia, they certified 315,000 votes that they couldn't properly follow chain of custody for. That alone should be enough to set off alarm bells. Because even if it's not full-on voter fraud, there are definitely some issues happening. Because I'd like to remind you of how few votes Joe Biden actually won Georgia in. during that election. Just pointing that out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our time together today. My name is Rick Robinson. This has been my show. And I have to say this, if this is all the Democrats have is let's bring hot people back to the ballot, I am pretty sure most of the people that were voting for Trump wasn't because they thought he was hot. So I don't think your plan's going to work. But you do you, boo. All right, we're going to get out of here. I'll be back tonight for America Off the Rails. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show, and we do this thing again every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. I'm still having direct competition issues with going up against the Charlie Kirk show, so I might be sliding a little bit later. I haven't decided yet. Bye, everybody. Say goodnight, Gracie.